In this eye-opening interview, Big Homie CC sits down with Piers Morgan to reveal the dark underbelly of Hollywood, a world often seen through rose-colored glasses. While the public is dazzled by the glitz and glamour of red carpets and award shows, Big Homie pulls back the curtain to expose the reality behind the scenes. He explains that Hollywood is not just a place of dreams, but a tightly controlled system, manipulated by a select few individuals who pull all the strings. These powerful figures decide who rises to stardom and who gets pushed aside, leaving the artist as little more than a face, a puppet controlled by the forces behind the curtain. According to Big Homie, the talent that fans believe in isn't what truly drives the industry anymore. He reveals that the music business, in particular, has become a game of connections rather than pure talent. The artist is just the face card, Big Homie says. They're not writing their own music, they're not creating anything. It's the writers, producers, and label heads who are in control, shaping the artist into what they want the public to see. For Big Homie, the industry's shift from focusing on raw talent to manufacturing marketable figures has changed the game entirely. Piers Morgan, clearly shocked by this revelation, presses further, asking about the toll this takes on the artists themselves. Big Homie doesn't mince words, it's a soul-crushing process. While the artist may achieve fame and fortune, they are often forced to sacrifice their creative freedom and personal identity in the process. They may get the fame, but they lose themselves, he explains. Once you sign that contract, it's no longer about you. You're a product to be sold, not an artist creating from the heart. As the conversation moves forward, Big Homie touches on how this manufactured system has led to countless artists being trapped in bad deals, with little chance to break free. The music industry, once a place where artists could rise on the strength of their talent, is now more about who you know, rather than what you can create. Big Homie's stark reality check serves as a reminder of the darker side of Hollywood, one that few are willing to acknowledge. But as the interview progresses, it becomes clear that his story isn't just about the corruption in Hollywood, it's about survival. The next chapter of the interview dives deeper into what kept Big Homie grounded through it all: his family, values, and resilience in the face of adversity. As the conversation shifts, Big Homie CC opens up about his upbringing in Chicago, revealing how his family shaped his survival and success. Growing up in a city known for its violence and hardship, Big Homie credits much of his strength to the strong women in his life. His mother, aunts, and grandmother played an integral role in his upbringing, teaching him resilience, survival skills, and the importance of family. He reflects on how these women instilled in him the values of hard work, perseverance, and the need to stay grounded in tough times. Without my family, especially the women who raised me, I wouldn't be here today, Big Homie says, his voice steady but filled with emotion. They showed me that survival isn't just about strength. It's about values, resilience, and knowing that family is everything. Growing up in a household where the men were often involved in illicit activities, Big Homie learned quickly that the streets were unforgiving. But it was the guidance of his mother and aunts that kept him on track. They kept him in church, in school, and away from the destructive influences that surrounded him. Big Homie also shares how his family taught him practical skills that have stayed with him throughout his life. From cooking to sewing, these lessons weren't just about survival in the moment, they were about preparing him for anything life could throw his way. I had to learn how to cook, how to sew, how to take care of myself and my siblings, he recalls. There were times when we didn't have much, but my family always found a way to make it work. For Big Homie, the women in his life taught him more than just how to survive, they taught him how to thrive despite the odds. These lessons became his foundation, shaping not only his personal code of survival but also his outlook on the world. They made me who I am today, he says. Without them, I don't know if I would have made it out of Chicago. As the interview progresses, Piers Morgan asks how these early lessons affected Big Homie's perspective on success, especially when navigating the corrupt and manipulative world of Hollywood and the music industry. Big Homie's next words begin to shift the conversation from family values to the harsh realities of the industry, laying the groundwork for the next chapter. As the interview dives deeper into Big Homie's career and experiences, the discussion turns to the music industry, a world he's navigated firsthand. Piers Morgan asks Big Homie to elaborate on the complex and often disheartening reality of the business. Big Homie's tone shifts slightly as he recounts his time in the industry, a place where talent often takes a back seat to connections and marketability. People think the music industry is all about talent. You know, you get discovered because you're amazing at what you do, Big Homie begins. But that's just not the case anymore. It's about who you know and what doors are open to you. The real talent, the ones who write the songs, are behind the scenes. They're the ones pulling the strings, while the artist is just the face. Piers Morgan listens intently, his curiosity piqued as Big Homie lays out the stark truth. You used to have to be talented to make it, Big Homie continues. But now, they can manufacture you. They can pick someone with a certain look, put them in a studio with the right writers, and boom, you've got a hitmaker. But that doesn't mean they're creating anything real. Big Homie points out that artists today are often controlled by labels, who dictate everything from their music to their image. If you have the right connections, they'll make you into whatever they want you to be. But the true artistry, it's not coming from the artist anymore. The conversation gets even more personal as Big Homie recalls his own experiences in the studio. I've been in rooms where 6 different writers are working on a single track, while the artist is just there to sing the lyrics, he says. It's like the artist is just a pawn in a bigger game. They don't even have control over their own music. Piers Morgan, taken aback by this, asks how this affects the artists who are trapped in these contracts. Big Homie explains the pressure to conform, to create something that fits within a predetermined mold, leaving little room for authenticity. These artists, they're not creating from the heart anymore. They're just following orders. And the labels know it. But they still want them to look like they're the ones in charge. As the conversation winds down, Big Homie's frustration is palpable. He urges listeners to understand that the music industry is not about the artist's talent or passion. It's a business, plain and simple. He adds, once you sign that deal, you're no longer an artist. You're a product. The interview takes a somber turn as Piers Morgan shifts the conversation to the streets of Chicago, a city Big Homie knows all too well. With a history of violence, gang culture, and a broken community structure, Chicago has become a symbol of urban decay. Big Homie, who grew up there, provides a first-hand account of the state of his hometown and the harsh realities that have shaped his life. Chicago, when you're from there, you learn that life doesn't hand you anything, Big Homie says, his voice reflecting the weight of his words. It's a place where survival is everything. You grow up fast, and you learn to either adapt or get swallowed by the streets. Piers, keen to understand how Big Homie navigated the violence, asks about the impact of gangs on Chicago's youth. Big Homie explains that, over the years, the city's gang culture has spiraled out of control. What was once a community system has now turned into a free-for-all, with no structure or leadership to guide the younger generations. In the past, there was some structure, Big Homie recalls. The OGs, the older guys in the neighborhood, they had a code. They kept things in check. But now, it's all chaos. There's no leadership. The streets are run by whoever can get the most attention, and the internet and social media have made it worse. Now, it's about clout. It's about who's the loudest, who's causing the most chaos. He reflects on how the internet, especially social media, has exacerbated the issues. Back then, you had to deal with things face to face. Now, everything is online. It's a breeding ground for violence, and the kids today, they're growing up in a different world. Piers presses further, asking if the breakdown of family structures played a role in the rise of violence. Big Homie doesn't hesitate. Absolutely. Chicago's violence is tied to broken families, the legacy of the crack epidemic, and a lack of mentorship. These kids have no guidance. They don't have the older generation to show them the way, to give them direction. He mentions the crack baby era, a term that refers to children who grew up in the aftermath of the crack cocaine epidemic, and how its effects are still felt today. The internet made it worse, sure, but it started with the families breaking down. As the conversation deepens, Big Homie is clear. Chicago's problems aren't just about the violence. It's a systemic issue that runs much deeper. The city's been through so much, but it's not just the gangs or the violence. It's about the lack of community, the loss of the old ways. As the conversation turns to a darker, yet deeply important subject, Piers Morgan asks Big Homie about his involvement in rescuing victims of human trafficking. Big Homie's eyes harden as he begins to share some of the most harrowing experiences of his life, discussing his work in the shadowy world of trafficking recovery and the personal toll it has taken on him. Human trafficking is something that affects every community, every city, Big Homie begins, his voice steady but filled with gravity. People think it's something that happens over there, far away from where they live. But it's right under our noses. It's happening everywhere. Pierce, clearly moved by the shift in tone, asks Big Homie what initially pushed him to get involved in this work. Big Homie explains that it all started with a desperate mother coming to him for help, a mother whose daughter had been taken by a powerful individual in Chicago. One night, a woman came to my door, crying. She had a video of what had happened to her daughter. A man from the streets had taken her daughter and done unspeakable things. She came to me with a stack of money and told me, "I don't care what you do, but you better do something." Big Homie recounts the intense moments that followed, the investigation, the dangers, and the deep emotional toll. He recalls how the situation quickly escalated into a life-threatening ordeal, where he found himself with a bounty on his head. "I didn't know it at the time, but the man who did this had $50,000 on my life. That's when things really got heated. It was like being thrown into a war zone," he says. Pierce, struck by the sheer bravery required in these situations, asks how Big Homie was able to navigate the risks and still carry out successful rescues. Big Homie credits his training, the knowledge he gained from growing up in a violent environment, and the strong team of professionals he put together to help him. "Over time, we built a network. We got licensed, trained, and bonded," Big Homie says, the pride in his voice clear. "We started doing things the right way, working with law enforcement, doing things by the book. But the thing that keeps me going is knowing that we're saving lives. Every time we bring someone home, it's worth the risk." He pauses, and the weight of his words hangs in the air. It's not just about fighting criminals. It's about giving people a chance to rebuild their lives. Pierce, moved by Big Homie's passion, asks what keeps him motivated despite the darkness he witnesses. Big Homie's response is clear: "I do it for the people we save, the families we reunite. If I don't do it, who will?"